Welcome back to State of the Association. I'm your host, Nash Roberts. Today, we're just going to go over opening night of the NBA season. We had the Celtics face off against the Knicks, and we had the Lakers playing the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm still not feeling too great. It's probably actually worse than it was yesterday, so we're not going to be having NFL Week 7 takeaways. I feel like I had a solid breakdown on Monday Night Football, but in terms of the rest of the games, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to hit that this week. But tomorrow we ought to be back and better. As of now, this is takeaways from opening night of the NBA season. Thank you for tuning in. The start of the NBA season was between the new-look New York Knicks and the defending champion Boston Celtics. And this game looked like the defending champions facing a team that had just had some huge roster shakeups. And that's not a harp on the Knicks by any means. I think in the long run they will be fine. But the Celtics should have won this game, and they came out and they executed, and they won by quite a bit, 132 to 109. Jayson Tatum looked really good, and this is a guy who I kind of expected to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder coming into this year because Jaylen Brown was the guy. Well, yes, Tatum was the primary guy for the Celtics. Jaylen Brown was one that was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. And after that, he was the Finals MVP. So I expect Tatum to kind of have a chip on his shoulder this year and to kind of take that next step. And it's just one game. And from Tatum, a big flaw with his game has been that he's just very reliant on the three. And that's really the whole Celtics team. They live and die by a three. And he hit 8 tonight. So you can't expect, the 37 points that he had in this game, you can't expect that production to continue because Tatum's not always going to hit 8 threes in a game. However, I think that this is a sign that Tatum can be aggressive, and that's really what I think is holding him back from being a proper superstar in this league. Because for the last couple of years, it's kind of seemed like he's just a little bit off of that. He has good statistical production. He can do a little bit of everything, but he's always just been a little bit away from being a true superstar. And I think just a new aggressiveness from the season for Jayson Tatum would do wonders for him, and he could really properly be in top 5 player of the league conversations. I would love to see that because, I want to root for the success of every player. I don't want to see Jayson Tatum fail in the spotlight or, just consistently not be the guy when it matters most. And I think this could very well be a new Jayson Tatum that we're going to be seeing this year. With a chip on his shoulder, he's got a lot to prove. Despite leading this team to a championship last year, he didn't catch most of the attention from that. And typically, he is the main media guy, but now he hasn't been over, the offseason, whatever it might be. So for Jayson Tatum, I think it's his year to shine. Do I think he's going to be the MVP? No, I think that's a 2-guard race between SGA and Luka. However, I think Tatum is in store for a very aggressive season that turns him into this for sure looked like the team that had a lot of roster shakeup. And not just did they shake up their roster, they got rid of some very important players like Donte Divencenzo and Julius Randle. And they bring in guys like Mikal Bridges and Cat, and that's going to be an adjustment period. Towns only had 12 points. Mikal had 16, which is something I can that's about the production that I would expect from Mikal in this offense, but I would definitely expect more from Cat. 12 points, 7 boards. You need a little bit more, especially this next team. Mitchell Robinson's out. They need a big man who can go in there and get boards, and Cat's really not the best guy for that, but you need him to bring his offensive talent as well. So Cat needs to work on those boards a little bit more and also just really develop his offensive game to fit into this new system. But I think with a coach like Tom Thibodeau, the future is bright for that because Tibbs is a big culture guy, right? And he played with Cat previously, so he wouldn't bring Cat in if he didn't think that Cat would be able to fit in. So I think in the long run, it'll be fine. Jalen Brunson had 22 points this game. You know who else had 22 points, though? That guard off the bench, Deuce Miles McBride. This is a player who I haven't been, vocal about on here in regards to my opinions on him, but in general, I've been pretty high on Miles McBride, and I think this could be the year that we kind of see a little bit of a coming out party from him. I didn't list him as a breakout player. I don't know, just with all the guys on the offense, how much he's really going to be able to take a leap offensively. But in terms of impact, I think Deuce McBride can be a very good player for the Knicks this season. So for the Knicks in general, there are some bright spots. Mikal was solid. Even if the team really struggled with shooting, Jalen Brunson only had 22. That's going to go higher. Cat's going to do a lot better than 12. And Miles McBride looked really good. So for this team, I think there are some positives, but it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period. And I think as we get further into the regular season, and especially come playoff time, the Knicks will be back and will be a serious threat in the Eastern Conference. Los Angeles Lakers handily defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Davis specifically had an amazing game for the Lakers. And we always say each and every year, that it's LeBron's time to pass the torch, right? It's Anthony Davis' team now. And in the past, we haven't really seen that. And there have been times where LeBron, he doesn't have a huge scoring load to start off the year, and he only had 16 this game. So I think it could very well be more of that. But if Eddie is able to continue this play, because he had a great game last night, if he's able to continue that, this could very well be his team. And, maybe it's just 1A, 1B. And I think just to have a two-headed monster like you could possibly have there, especially if they stay healthy, that could be huge for the Lakers. This is a team that really disappointed last year. But with a new coach, anything's possible, especially with JJ Redick. We haven't seen what he can do in the league yet. And there's a drawback to that as well, just the fact that he does have experience in the NBA. But there's also, teams don't really know what's a game plan. They don't know the JJ Redick system yet. So I think for the Lakers, there's pros and cons to it, but I think JJ Redick can absolutely be a competent coach in this league. He's a good basketball mind, to say the very least. And for Anthony Davis, he seems to be doing just fine, right? And this was a great game for him. Is it going to be sustainable? No. 36 points, double-digit boards. You're not going to get that every single night, and especially if you were to get that a lot of nights from AD, he's had a history of injuries. So I don't know if he won that every night, right? But it was a great showing for him. And if LeBron's having an off night, it can absolutely be AD's team. And, once again, we say that it's LeBron's time to pass the torch. I don't know about that. I don't know if it's ever going to be time for that. Just he's had unmatched longevity. But on certain nights, it can absolutely be AD's team. D'Angelo Russell for the Lakers, he had just 9 points and 5 assists. I don't think it's time to panic. I know there are crowds that aren't big Debo fans, so, they might see that statistic and kind of say, hey, this is not the point guard for the Lakers. And you can make an argument about that. D'Lo's biggest issue has always been his inconsistency and also his playoff struggles. However, D'Lo also gets off to slow starts of the year, and as the season ramps up, he will be better. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing, right? Because you want your players to be available and playing at their best, 82 games a year. However, D'Lo always gets off to slow starts, it seems like. And as the year progresses, he gets a lot better. So really, you would prefer it that way as opposed to he consistently gets worse throughout the season, right? So, February D'Lo is when he really shows up. So if the Lakers, as the year goes on, if LeBron or AD are dealing with injuries, he will be able to step up. So I think that is a positive. However, slow starts aren't good, right? But the Lakers are able to mask that and come out with a win tonight. I think they will be fine. The shots just weren't falling for them. And it was really just an uncharacteristic game for them. Mike Conley, notably, wasn't really that safe with the ball. And typically he's really a safe and stable, steady point guard. He wasn't that tonight. But I do think that will get better, no doubt. Because really, there's no reason for it not to, because Mike Conley's game, as he ages, yes, he's not going to be the same player. However, he doesn't really rely on that athleticism, right? He's more this high IQ point guard. So I think that he will be fine, and it's just more of an off game for him. He just needs to get back into a rhythm. He's used to playing with Cat. Now he's got Julius Randle, and that's a little bit different of a play style. They are similar in terms of, offensive-minded bigs. However, Julius Randle is a little bit more of a ball stopper, so that can kind of get into the flow of the offense a little bit, and it might take an adjustment period. Much like I said for the Knicks with Cat, it's going to take an adjustment period for the Timberwolves to be without Cat. Jaden McDaniels only had 6 points. I thought this was a guy who was going to be ready to break out this year, really take the offensive leap. That remains to be seen, but, game one, right? It didn't look very good. However, we should not overreact over one game for sure, although it doesn't spell too good a sign for Jaden McDaniels and his potential breakout offensive leap. Rudy Gobert had 13 points, 14 boards. That's about what you can expect from him. The bench unit looks solid, though. Donte Divencenzo, Naz Reid, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker all scored double-digit points. And for a guy like Donte and Naz Reid, those are the offensive guys coming off the bench. But for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the fact that he scored 14, his offense isn't even the best part of his game. He is most skilled as a defender. So that's great to see from him as well, because you can kind of expect that from Naz and Donte. But to see Nah also have a great game off the bench scoring-wise, on top of his great defense, he's going to be a really good piece for the Timberwolves this year. And, of course, the main man, Anthony Edwards, he had 27 points on albeit inefficient scoring. However, who else is going to shoot that ball, right? The Timberwolves, the shots weren't falling. And so Anthony Edwards decided that he was going to be the guy, and he couldn't always hit those shots. However, it's a good sign that he is, willing and able to take those shots, because so many times the downfall of a player is a lack of confidence and being really conservative. Anthony Edwards is not that. Sometimes to a detriment. The Minnesota did not win this game. However, they needed someone to step up, and he absolutely tried. I think it's going to be another great year for Anthony Edwards. Just a bright young star in this league. And Rob Dillingham, he did not play this game, but Mike Conley has been mentoring him all preseason, and I think he has a bright future in the league. It remains to be seen how many minutes he'll get here this year, how much playing time he'll get. But I think in the long run, Rob Dillingham will be fine. I expect him to be in the lineup. I expect him to be in it a lot going into this year, although he didn't play game one, right? But we don't want to overreact to that. It's going to be a while for him to get acquainted to the NBA. I think, especially in the G League, he could kind of run the offense. I think that would be really good for him over on the Iowa Wolves. But in general, I think the Timberwolves will be fine. They just got to get their shots to fall. They got to get into a new rhythm with Julius Randle. This was an uncovered game for today's episode of State of the Association. Thank you for tuning in. I'm happy to see basketball season back. We're probably going to be running like daily podcast episodes at this point, and they're going to be longer than this one for sure. This was more of just a bonus, right? Because it's one single segment. But we're going to be back. We're going to be better once we get feeling healthy again. Thank you for tuning in. This is State of the Association. I'm your host, Nash Roberts.